What's up everyone? Welcome to my how-to video on how to replace the screen on an iPhone 8 Plus. After this video, no matter what your level of experience with replacing screens is, you'll be able to replace your screen on your iPhone 8 Plus. Here are the ingredients. You'll need isopropanol, otherwise known as isopropyl alcohol, at least 91%. In 91% isopropanol, the other 9% is water, and you do not want to put water in your device. So I have here 99 to 100% isopropanol. Then we'll need a screwdriver. You need a 5-point star bit, a regular Phillips bit, and a tri-point bit for the iPhone 8 Plus. Then you'll need any sort of spudger. In the video, I'll be using the iFlex tool and the plastic spudger. The iSesmo is optional, but any of these will do with just one. You could also use this. This is optional. This is a suction cup to help you get the screen off. And it's stuck there now. And some tweezers will help too, but that is also optional. Last but not least, you'll need a screen and a microfiber cleaning cloth to help you out. So first off, here's my phone I'm gonna fix. It's not cracked, but you'll see there's damage to the LCD. What did that damage was isopropyl alcohol. So keep that away from your new LCD for this reason. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. The first thing we'll be using is the 5-point star bit to take out the 2 screws at the bottom of our iPhone 8 Plus. They're the long screws. We're gonna put those in our grid over here. If you do not have a rubber grid like this, other options include magnet pads. They're pretty cool. Actually, screw it. I'm gonna go ahead and use one of those. Maybe it'll make it easier for viewing. But you can use magnet pads, or you can just use spots on a table. I like to lay out a cloth or a rag of some sort, because screws won't roll off the rag. They won't lose their place. And if you don't have anything cool like this, a rag's gonna be your best bet. So, next, we're gonna take one of our spudgers. I like to start with the iFlex tool, but any plastic prying tool, such as a guitar pick, regular plastic spudger will do. I like to first get in there. This is thin enough to get in there, but if you're having trouble getting your first in to the device, you can use your suction cup. Now by pulling up on the suction cup, you create enough space for something like a plastic spudger to just barely get in there. Now you can use your spudger to kind of cut around. You don't want the spudger to get too far in there, but you want it to be far enough to cut the adhesive. Now don't force it if it's not going. One thing that'll make this easier is a tiny bit of isopropanol. I like to put it up here and then let it drip down. And there we go. That's gonna make this a lot easier. I can feel it cutting a lot easier because isopropanol is loosening the alcohol or adhesive. Yeah, it's loosening the adhesive. So we're gonna continue to not dig too far in. Now heads up, the LCD connectors and the front camera connector are on the right side of your phone. So the phone is going to be opening like a book from left up to right. So keep that in mind. You do not want to go too far in on this side, and you do not want to pry up too high on this side. We're just going to continue to cut the adhesive within the phone. Now, most of it's cut. We can pop it up a tiny bit from the bottom. A tiny bit, because remember, the LCD connectors, you don't want to rip those. Let's get this thing off. I have such a, there it is. Now, we've popped it up that much. We can begin to shimmy the screen down to create a gap at the top there. If you're having trouble doing that, take your thing, spudger, and kind of cut in there too, and you can turn it, make a little gap there. Don't stick it in, but simply make a gap. And that's going to help us pop the screen open like a book. Now we're in. I'm going to use this special blue thing to hold it open, but just for demonstration purposes, you can use anything to hold your screen open. My favorite anything is a coffee cup. So let's do that. Now we're looking in the device. Our first order of business is going to be unplugging the battery. When you're taking the phone apart, use this Phillips head screwdriver. And when you're taking the phone apart, always unplug the battery first. When you're putting the phone back together, always plug in the battery last. It's going to prevent any short circuits, anything from going wrong with the device. It's just the order of operations, and it is one of the most common mistakes for newcomers to phone repair, to plug the battery in the wrong order. Now I just used my fingernail. That's probably the best spudger you will ever find, but use your spudger to get that off. And like I said, fingernail works, but for the battery, you do not want to use a metal spudger. You do not want to use tweezers. You want to use something plastic and non-conductive. The battery is the second connector up on the left here, this one. You can follow the little wire, the flat wire that goes down to here. But anyways, get that battery out of there by coming in from the right side and slightly leveraging it. Now you can pop it out. Now the battery's going to stay there, but next we have two LCD connectors here. I'll try to get some light on that. There's the first one. We'll just make sure you're leveraging on something sturdy and not the motherboard. Just kind of turn to leverage it up. Now when you get that one out of the way, you're going to see another one. Let's do the same thing. Turn and leverage it up. Now all we have to worry about is the front camera bracket. For that, we'll be using our tri-point screwdriver. There's going to be two screws here for you to take apart. And here we go. Now you might have to press a little bit hard to get them off, but do whatever you can to not strip it. So there's the first one. The second one, you might have to wiggle around this cable here. There we go. Put that on our pad. So, bracket. And I'll use my tweezers. Could just use my fingers, but I'll use my tweezers. Bracket. Here's our last cable. Again, come from the side, leverage on something tough, just turn and pop it out. It's best done from the side, not the front of the connector. Now we got our screen off. And get this huge coffee cup out of the way. Now we're going to be disassembling the screen and moving the parts over to our new screen. So let's get that phone out of the way. Create a clean surface for us. First things first, we're going to go back to our Phillips. First thing we'll be taking off is the front camera and the front speaker and the proximity sensor. It's all in one. So put those over here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws here in the front camera assembly. So one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, first you're going to be taking off the bracket. You don't have to be as gentle with that thing. But now we're going to reveal the camera and the front speaker. The camera is going to fold up and left to reveal the front speaker that you can easily take off and put to the side. But now we're dealing with a bunch of business here. Now, sometimes this proximity sensor that is lodged in place in a little bracket, I'll show you the little bracket. It's this plastic bracket here. Just like the front camera has a bracket, the proximity sensor has a bracket, and it's going to be sometimes hard to get that out of there. So I always take a drop of it, just one drop of isopropanol, and put it, sometimes two. But I put it there on the proximity sensor, but far enough from the LCD as to not harm the LCD. And that's going to loosen the adhesive and allow us to pop that proximity sensor out with ease. Next order of business, here's the speaker terminals. We want to just start at this end and cut underneath of those. And once we get here, we want to turn, continue to cut straight up beneath the microphone towards the proximity sensor until it loosens. And I'm going to show you guys the back of this so you can understand what is adhered and what you don't want to cut with your spudger. It's going to be adhered here. That's where we started, prying from that side and went over here. And in order to not cut the cable right there, that's where we turned this way and began to pry with this corner of our spudger in like that, so that we didn't cut this part of the cable. It's going to be adhered here, there, and there. So just going to have to be very careful as to not cut those cables there. We're going to put that to the side now. Now we can see we have a bracket here, bracket there. Our new screen came with 2 brackets, and it came with this to hold the speaker and microphone. So we're going to go ahead and remove our new adhesive thing. If it did not come with any of those 3 parts, all you have to do is transfer them over. They have awfully weak adhesive on them. So, next order of business is removing the home button. Move this up. The home button is the most fragile part of your iPhone 8 Plus. Not only the most fragile, but it's the most expensive part to mess up. Now, Apple has made it this way. Their software connects the home button to the motherboard. So if you break this, you can't get a new one unless you go to Apple. It's about $549 still for the 8 Plus, unless you got all that Apple Care, but I don't have that. So we're gonna be awfully careful. And now we're gonna go back to our tri-point screwdriver. And with that, we've got 4 more screws to take out of here. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what I do so I do not damage the home button. Now, this screw, and this screw, you don't have to be so careful with those. But it's the screw that attaches to the back of the home button you have to be careful with. Now, I want to leave this screw in to hold the bracket. We need the bracket to be held to take this screw out. But we're gonna apply a medium amount of pressure. If you push too hard, you're gonna see the home button is gonna flex inward out of the device. So oftentimes I'll actually put something hard behind it at this time. You can use your iFlex tool, you can use another screen, you can use a piece of wood, but the flexion of this rubber mat is going to allow that home button to push out, and that's dangerous because there's a cable right here that could cut if you push it too far out. Anyways, we're going to go ahead a moderate amount of pressure. We're going to unscrew it. We did good, but we're not finished. We'll take the fourth screw out now. Now if you strip any of these, I feel bad for you. I've got another video explaining how to solve that problem. But now we got the bracket off. We're looking at our home button. You're gonna need your spudger and your alcohol for this. That's what I like to use. Now with this spudger, you're gonna wanna go ahead, so the connector's here, you want to pry it this way, because the connector folds over and plugs in like that. So you wanna get in there and pry it off like that. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm gonna hold very gently in between the two connectors. You'll see what I mean when I, like a book, open it from left to right. Now you can see there's two connectors. So see what I mean by I stuck this in between the two connectors? And that's gonna hold the bottom one down. You don't want the screwdriver to touch the home button's components. You just want it in between the two connectors. And that's gonna help you open it left to right, like a book. Now, we're gonna wanna fold this up and out of the way. In fact, I'll even keep it out of the way with a piece of tape. Boom. Now it's just not in the way. Now, what we're gonna wanna do, this home button is adhered to the screen. If you rip this cable while you're prying it up, it's over. Your phone's done. So I'm gonna apply a couple drops of adhesive to the bottom. Actually, I'm just gonna do one drop to the bottom of the flex cable because I don't want the alcohol near the LCD. Now, starting with the corner from underneath this fold, I'm gonna slowly slice it up and down, very slowly, until I can get behind the bottom right corner of the connector. And that's where I'm gonna continue to slice up and down. Might need some more alcohol, that's okay. Perfect. Now, you saw that shimmying motion we used? That shimmying motion is going to help you get in there. We can fold that up, and it comes out the front of the screen, like that. To install it into your new screen, you're just going to want to pull it up. I have a sticky tape on the front of my screen, so I'm going to need to pull that down before I insert the home button from the front in like that. Make sure it's nice and evenly fitted. Now we're going to make sure all the holes align. Pull our cable up. Make sure everything's aligned. Press it down. Plug in the connector by folding it in like a book. Perfect. Now we can go ahead with our tri-point screwdriver and put the bracket back on. Before you start reassembling everything, I'd like to go over this too. Sometimes the new screen does not come with this heat plate on the back, and the heat plate looks like this. Now, to take this off of the old screen and put it onto the new screen, there are 6 on the iPhone 8 Plus. There are 5 screws. 1, 2, 3. They're all tri-point. They look like that. 4, 5. And you're just going to want to take all 5 of those screws off and remove the plate, put it on the new one. And this is the last part of the disassembly process, but our example here doesn't have that. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall the home button. Now while you're screwing these in, you're going to want to make sure this hole for the bracket is perfectly aligned with your home button. And if it's not perfect, it might not work. So we'll just continue down the line. Now, you want to screw that in moderately tight, but not too tight. And I'm going to go back and tighten it a little bit more with my metal thing, otherwise known as an iFlex tool. Cool. All right, that should be tight enough. Now we can transfer the camera components over. Boom. We will start by placing the proximity sensor in place and then aligning our speaker terminals here with the 2 holes on each side of them. Press that down. Now everything has to be in here in unison. So once you get everything in, nice and tucked in there, everything's pressed in. Now you can take the speaker, put it in its place. From there, the front camera can fold over into the front camera bracket, and you can place the bracket on the back of all that. You might have to hold all this down while you're assembling it, and that's going to make it kind of tough, but it's just what you got to do. You might find trouble with that, but it has to be perfectly aligned as well, just like the home button, or your proximity sensor might not function perfectly. Now with our Phillips head screwdriver, with our Phillips head screwdriver, we're going to begin to place the screws, the 5 screws, back into the bracket. Ta-da! Now we've got a completed screen. We're going to have to test this screen now with our device. So let's begin by first making sure the battery is unplugged, and start with the front camera cable. You can kind of bend it over backwards like this and plug that in with ease. And that'll leave the 2 cables over here to plug in second. Let's see. Find a home for these. There we go. Once one is in, the second should line up easily. Alright, now last step, once we make sure all 3 connectors are fastened, we can plug the battery in. Now look at that! We're ready for testing. So you make sure all these connectors are fastened in there, and we're not going to completely close the device just yet, but we're going to close it up like that. Just be careful. And now we're going to turn it on to test it. Now, first thing we'll notice is it's coming to life, and that's a good sign. But we're not finished yet. We need to make sure the front camera works, the proximity sensor works, the front speaker works, and the home button works. And your best indication that the home button works is that 1, it goes home. 2, you can feel it click, the taptic functionality. Click. And 3, Touch ID is gonna be okay. Look at that, touch lightly. Anyways, we're gonna get out of there. Now to test the front camera, we're gonna go to camera, of course. Boom. To test the front speaker and the proximity sensor, we are gonna make a phone call, and we're not gonna give them away. So let's call this guy, and basically, what's happening? Now we've got our device completed. We are going to make sure all the connectors are pressed down evenly. The battery was plugged in last. We're just going to lightly close it and test it out first. Now, while it's turning on, I'll go over what we need to test and what we need to do next. And there it is. Good sign, it's coming to life. We're going to need to test the home button, the front camera, the proximity sensor, and the front speaker. Everything we moved over from the old screen, basically. And first, to test the home button, 1 goes home, 2 makes a taptic click when you touch it, and you can 3 do the double tap to pull down half the screen, and 4 Touch ID works. It will tell you. If it does not, don't worry. But here we go. It's boom, working. And next, to test the front camera, of course, we can just go to the front camera. Get out of there. Now, to test the proximity sensor and the front speaker, the only way we can do this on the new iOS is to make a phone call. So let's cover this guy up. If we hold our finger over the proximity sensor, it will go black. And if we listen, we will know that we correctly hooked it up. So next, you can power the device off normally, or you can skip all that and, like a boss, just unplug the battery. Safe in my experience, and it turns it off faster. We're gonna unplug everything so that we can install our adhesive. So for starters, we're going to clean the old adhesive out of the device. Now this is going to take a while. Isopropanol, we're going to put that around the outside of the phone. Don't worry about the isopropanol on the inside of your phone, as opposed to the LCD. It will not damage your phone. Unless, of course, you have the 91%, which is 9% water. So that's going to loosen up the rest of the adhesive. Now, we can take our new adhesive, whoa there. We can take our new adhesive, all of it All adhesives come differently, but they all have this universal just peel off. For the iPhone 8 Plus, there's going to be a big hole for the camera, tiny hole for this mess over here. That's gonna help you line it up. Now I like to bend it back like that, and that gives me a little bit of control over it. I like to get one corner first, lay down the second corner, and now we can slowly but surely get the rest of that there, and it is perfect. Now we take our spudger, or anything for that matter, and make sure you go over all of this. The purpose of cleaning the device is so that we have the best adhesion between our new adhesive and our metal frame. And this, pressing the adhesive down, is just going to make the adhesion even better. So now we can start with our little pull tab here. I would use tweezers, but they are optional, so I'm just going to peel that off with my finger. And just do it nice and gently. Do it nice and gently, because sometimes the adhesive is going to pull up with this. Oops. Sometimes the adhesive is going to pull up with this, and that just means either the frame wasn't clean enough or it's just bad or old adhesive. So pull it up real slowly just in case that starts to happen. Boom. There we have it. Having an issue. Gotta press that down a little more. Boom. Now I've got brand new adhesive on this thing. We can begin to reinstall the screen. Again, starting with the front cable connector. Finishing with the two LCD connectors. Come on there. And last but not least, plug in the battery. Everything's fine. Now we can begin to put the brackets back on. Remember, we've got our Phillips head screws for this bracket, for the battery and the LCD, and our tri-point screws for our bracket covering the front camera. Make sure it's all aligned. Let's start with the tri-point screws after we get our cup of coffee back in here. Booyah. All right. Next it's going to be tri-point. Ta-da. Now, thanks to our mat, we know which screws go where. The screws are different sizes. You cannot put them anywhere. I mean, I do it all the time, but you've got to be very careful, because long screw damage is when a screw that is too long for the hole goes into the hole, and it punctures something behind the bracket, basically, because the screw was longer than it was supposed to be. So just be wary of that. Using a screw that's too short, it's not going to harm your device. So let's put these four back in now. If you've watched this far, you're a champion. I'm really taking my time. So now we can shut the device up. Why don't we just leave that in there for fun? Actually, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sell this phone, and that's gonna be in there. Now we can close the device. The next repairman is not gonna know exactly what I was doing, but he's gonna know I did it. All right, here we go. That is, if it gets a next repairman. People don't do it yourself these days much anymore. But you do, because you're watching this video with me. Let's get this cup of coffee out of the way now and place our last two screws into the bottom. Now we have a hopefully completely water resistant, thanks to our adhesive lining, functional device. everything went right. We can double check that it even turns on, and it does. And thanks to our magnetic screw mat, or our grid, or just a plain old rag to help the screws not roll around, you and I were able to take apart and put together this phone. And I hope I helped someone out there today take apart their phone, learn a little bit about the inside, what to do, what not to do. Check that out. I'm recording this with a phone, rubber banded to a microphone holder. Anyways, guys, I hope you liked this video. For a quicker video, and one that I go through it a lot faster without explaining all the steps, find that in the link in the description. And I hope you like and subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.